Hello everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for our webinar today, Get to Know Grantstation. Just a few housekeeping items before we get started. So all callers will be muted. If you lose your internet connection, feel free to reconnect using the link that was emailed to you. If you have to drop off early or you want to watch the webinar again at a later time, we'll be hosting the webinar on our website at TechSoup.org/community/events-webinars. We'll also be sending an email with the presentation, the recording, and any relevant links that we talk about today. If you're on social media, feel free to send us a tweet at TechSoup using hashtag TSWebinars, but we'll mostly be focusing on the chat box that you see on the left-hand side of your screen. So just a little bit about TechSoup. We are located in 236 countries and territories, and we serve over 1 million nonprofits offering donated or discounted technology. We partner with several technology companies like Adobe, Intuit, Microsoft, Symantec, and several more. And if you're interested in learning about what technologies are available to your nonprofit, feel free to visit our website at TechSoup.org/getproductdonations. And today's technology partner is Grantstation. So the tour will be focused on Grantstation, and we're also offering a $99 Grantstation special on February 12th and 13th only. If you're interested in getting a notification when the sale goes live, feel free to submit your email to the page that you see here, and my colleague Zareen, who's helping on the back end, will chat that out to you guys. So I just want to make sure that my sound is okay. So I want to know where you guys are calling in from, and I want to make sure the chat box works. So if you want to type in what city you're calling in from and what organization you work for, I'll read a few of them out. All right, so we have Eugene, Oregon, New York, Los Angeles, Atlanta. Okay, do we have any international folks? I don't see any yet, but okay, cool. So it seems like you guys can hear me okay. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and introduce everyone. So my name is Seema Tucker, and I'm the Senior Manager of Content here at TechSoup. My colleague Zareen Kazi is the Marketing Associate, and she'll be helping out on the back end. So if you have any technical issues, feel free to send us a chat, and we'll try and help you out. And then we have our main presenters today. So we have Jeremy Smith, who is the Communications Director at Grantstation. After 10 years in radio and 6 years as an announcer and program director at a local NPR station, Jeremy began a business that specialized in bringing tech support to you. He was initiated into the world of Grantstation through that endeavor and joined the team in July of 2008. His goal is to make the process of finding funding the easiest part of the grant process. Hearing about organizations that have not only received funding but found the information through Grantstation is an excellent indicator of that success. And he also hosts a talk show called General Protection Fault, which provides listeners with computer talk that you can use every Wednesday at 6:30 p.m. on KSUA 91.5 FM. And we also have Sarah Kennedy, who's the Director of Online Education at Grantstation. And she's been with Grantstation since February of 2007 and brings with her the experience of Executive Director for a local nonprofit. She also worked with the Veterans Administration as a research assistant for over a decade. And Sarah serves as Grantstation's Director of Online Education. So I'm going to go ahead and pass it off to Sarah.
Thanks so much, Seema, and welcome everyone. We know your schedules are busy, so we're really glad you took the time out today to join us. And during this time we have together today, we want to show you how you can do all your research on Grantstation, from identifying the right funders to building a grant-seeking strategy that you and other members of your organization can use in the coming year. And Jeremy, I see the website. Your tour guide extraordinaire is Jeremy Smith. And Jeremy, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Okay, thanks a lot, Sarah. Thanks again, everyone, for joining us today. I really hope you're able to get some ideas of what Grantstation can do for you during our short time we have together. Now, to start off with, Grantstation itself is a set of tools and resources to help organizations identify and secure grant dollars. Now, Grantstation is a publishing company. Research and writing are our skill sets. We really pride ourselves on publishing current and forward-looking information about grant makers. Now, all the Grantmaker profiles on Grantstation, both government and private listings, are, for lack of a better description, what we call in the game. Now, that means these are profiles that reflect grant makers who are actively accepting requests or letters of inquiry from a variety of organizations. Now, you may have used some other services where you do your research, you get hundreds of returns, leaving you with a really long list of potential funders to screen through without really knowing how relevant they are to your specific needs. Now, our job is to pre-screen grant makers, so the time that you spend researching generates a list of grant makers that may truly accept requests to fund your organization's program or project. So really think of us as your backroom research team, pre-screening funders, so that we're feeding you the most relevant ones for your program or project. Remember, everything you find on Grantstation is open for requests or letters of inquiry. Now, besides the rich grant information that we have here on our website, we also publish 3 different newsletters that highlight upcoming funding opportunities. So here under Public Resources, you can find them under Newsletters. The first thing that you can find here is the Online Education Spotlight. And this is a monthly newsletter that provides a deeper look at all the educational resources currently available for grant seekers. We also have our monthly Grantstation International Insider. Now, this features 16 different international funding opportunities, including specific sections covering Canadian opportunities. And of course, we have our world-famous weekly Grantstation Insider, and that focuses on 10 distinct opportunities for US-based nonprofit organizations. Now, as I mentioned, all of our newsletters are posted right here in our Public Resources section. And this is also where you can find links to Trend Track, the Pathfinder website, and all of our online education resources as well. We'll come back a little bit later in the tour and show you more of these areas. So here near the top of the page are the links to our key features, and that's Find Grant Makers, Build Strategy, Write Proposals, and the aforementioned Public Resources. Now, when you click on Find Grant Makers, it'll open up the search section. This is where all the databases are located, along with some additional research articles. Now, when you click on Build Strategy, you'll be able to access tools that will help you build a solid grant-seeking strategy. And when you click on Write Proposals, this is where you'll find step-by-step tutorials that you can use to write compelling grant proposals. So in addition, under Build Strategy, we have Grant-Seeking Calendar as well as Creating Time. And these are tutorials that focus on how to design and develop grant-seeking strategies. And they really work hand in hand when you're creating a strategy that works for you and your organization. Now, we'll come back later to the Grant-Seeking Calendar tutorial in today's tour. So here on the main page of the website, if we go ahead and scroll down the front page, we're going to go to our Funding Alert section, which is towards the bottom. Now, these alerts that we have that I'll be showing you today change weekly, and as with all the information on Grantstation, these are carefully curated profiles providing you with the most current information about specific grant opportunities. So right now we'll take a look at our National Funding Alert from A Community Thrives right now. Let's just see what a record actually looks like. So in a specific record, on the left-hand side is a grantmaker's profile. This includes their specific areas of interest and any specific application procedures. Now on the right-hand side, you'll see their website. You can email the profile to yourself, as well as contact information, application information, any specific grantmaker information, and then a little date stamp for when it was last updated. Now, when we create and update these records, and we're constantly going through and modifying, removing, and adding records, we gather up as much information as we can from the web, from their IRS 990 form, and from other databases. And then our researcher drafts a profile, which we send directly to the grantmaker for their review. The grantmaker reviews this profile, they make any changes, and they send it back to us. We do a final edit, and then we publish it in our database. So our researchers really focus on publishing quality information that will make your job easier. Hence the idea of thinking of Grantstation as your backroom research team. Now you can also, and I'll go back to our main page here, visit our online education menu, and you can find that over here on the right-hand side. I wanted to go ahead and call Sarah back just for a second to go ahead and mention this.
Thanks. So the webinars are open to the public, so you do not need to be a member of Grantstation to take them. You can also take them in a couple of different ways. You can take them as an individual or as a group. The group can be 2 to 10 people, and those 2 to 10 people can be in different locations on different devices. So it's a very affordable way to participate. And later on in the tour, we'll show you other resources that can help you expand your grant-seeking skills and knowledge as well. So,
at this point, I think we should conduct a few thorough searches that really show how useful our site is for your grant research needs. So we'll go ahead and click on our main logo. That'll take you back to the front page of the website. So how do you go about identifying the best grant makers to approach? So first of all, here are some scenarios we made up for today. The first is that we're seeking funding for animal welfare in the state of Minnesota. And the second scenario is we want to start an after-school program that deals with obesity and youth. So we recommend that you begin by doing 2 specific types of research, primary and secondary research. We'll explain what each of them is and how to do them. Once you've gone through both of these research steps, you'll really have the foundation for your grant-seeking strategy. So prior to beginning all your searches, I recommend you click on Find Grant Makers and then go ahead and click on our Preparation section on the Overview area. And this is where you can find our project description worksheet as well as our search terms. Now, using the project description worksheet will help you organize your approach, flesh out your budget, and serve as a solid foundation for your grant-seeking strategy. Now, this is a downloadable Word document where you can save any pertinent information related to your search, and it can then be handed off to other members of your team for further research or stored and referenced later. We also really encourage our members to familiarize themselves with our search terms. I'm going to go ahead and click on that right now. Occasionally, a search won't yield any practical results, and often that's caused by not having the right search term. So this section contains descriptions of the key terminology used on our website, and it's the same terminology used by the grant makers themselves and serves as a great guide when you're doing your keyword research. So to use this area, you simply enter a keyword right down here to see which categories you want to check when you're searching. Then you'll make a note of it on your project description worksheet, and now you know that you're on the same page as the grant maker. So using our earlier example of animal welfare, I'm going to go ahead and just type in animal welfare and click Apply. We see that it's located under the Environment and Animals section, and it also includes other specific topics such as spay and neuter programs, animal shelter programs, alternatives to animal testing, as well as humane societies, and no-kill philosophy programs. So this is a really important step to do before you get into your searches, just knowing that you're on the same page as the grant makers themselves. So let's go ahead and jump over into our searches, which are also known as primary research. And we're going to go ahead and move into our U.S. state government section. So if we click on Search right here under Find Grant Makers, it'll go ahead and pull up all of our different databases. We're going to go ahead and take a look at our U.S. state government section. And we're going to go ahead and start by selecting our specific state, which in the example is Minnesota. So I'm going to go ahead and go down the list and click on Minnesota. Now, Grantstation offers access to listings of U.S. federal and state-funded agencies, and state departments for each of the 50 states and the District of Columbia that offer financial and technical assistance programs. Now, all these links that you see here will take you directly to the agency or department pages which deal specifically with funding. Now, for the next step in our primary research, we can look at what's offered by the U.S. government, and that's in our U.S. federal section. So I can go ahead and just close this and click on U.S. federal from our database selections. And in this area, you can search through using eligible applicants, funding agencies, areas of interest, funding opportunity, and CFDA number, along by using specific keywords. So let's go ahead and type in a keyword, the one we figured out earlier, which is animal welfare. So if we type in animal welfare and then click Submit, let's see what's available on the federal level. Now what this provides us with is a front end to grants.gov where all the different federal opportunities are listed. So we can do all of our research in one specific location. So looking at this, we have 2 specific results. And looking at both of these results, just off the top of my head, I don't think this quite works with what our goal is. And this is really related to more medical terminology. So I haven't found anything yet. So keep this in mind. The funding options available within the U.S. state and federal government sections are important information to collect, because when you apply to private funders, you can say that you've done your federal and state research. And in case, like we did, we don't find any options, we can say at this time there are no federal programs that can help us with our need. That way the private funder knows that you've done your homework, which really speaks to your credibility as an organization, and that private funding from them is the only option now. So once you've completed your federal research, you can now move into the US Charitable Database. I'll go ahead and click on that one and take us into this database. Now the US Charitable Giving Database lists thousands of funder profiles. That includes independent, family, community, and corporate foundations, corporate giving programs, faith-based grant makers, and associations with grant-making programs. Now all these profiles are searchable by geographic scope, areas of interest, and types of support, name, and by specific keywords. So in the content area here on the left-hand side, this is where you can find a guide to help you through the search process. And on the right-hand side is a navigation area where you enter in all of your different search criteria. So under geographic scope, where we like to begin, you can choose to search for global grant makers giving to US-based organizations, which will really increase our pool of options even more. But for now, let's just choose national grant makers, and then we'll choose our specific state, which in this case is Minnesota. So if we click on Select State Grant Makers, and then slide down to our specific state, we'll click on Minnesota at this point. Now you'll notice right over here at the very top under current search criteria, the criteria is actually listed here as we make our selections. Now as each new criteria is added or subtracted, it'll broaden or narrow the funding opportunities being displayed right over here. And just as a quick reference, when we were just searching for US-based funding, we had about right around 1,000 results. Adding in Minnesota gave us an extra 375 results. Doing this process of choosing our geographic scope really allows us to cast our net as wide as possible, combining national opportunities with state-based ones to really see just how broad our grant universe is. Now, once we start selecting other criteria, our results will begin to narrow to funding opportunities that are a perfect fit for our needs. And with that, we're ready to go ahead and choose our area of interest. In this case, we know from doing our keyword research under areas of interest, we go down to environment and animals, and then we go ahead and check the box, animal welfare. And just to know, in case you don't want to go through the specific process of looking up every single keyword and just want to jump into searches, you can always simply hover over each of these little eyes right here. And this will give you a brief description of what each category includes. So you can also do your keyword research this way, although it's not quite as straightforward as the way I showed you earlier. Just letting you know, there's lots of ways you can do things here at Grantstation. There isn't just one way, and I'm just showing you the way that I feel works the best. Let's go ahead and click on animal welfare at this point. So now we're looking at 64 specific results, and let's add a specific type of support at this point. So if we go ahead and scroll down below our areas of interest, we can choose a specific type of support. This is where we could get funding just for capacity building or challenge grants, or maybe emergency funds, fellowships, or money for film and video projects. But for now, let's click on general operating support and see what we're looking at here. So we're looking at 26 specific results. Let's go ahead and change this by removing general operating support and look just for equipment as a form of support. So we'll go ahead and click off this box right here. So clicking a little minus sign will remove it from our selection, from our search criteria really. And then I'll go ahead and scroll back down to our type of support, and I'm going to click on equipment. And if I want to narrow this search even more, I can go ahead and remove the national from the geographic search area by clicking the minus button right here, and then focus on funders who are specifically giving in Minnesota. So I'll go ahead and do that right now. And now we're looking at 6 specific results. You can actually show more per page if you want, up to 100 different results per page. And you can sort them by each of these categories by simply clicking on the top right there. I'd also like to point out an area that I mentioned a little bit earlier, which is the keyword section. And that's right down here. This is a really powerful way to narrow down your searches, but I really suggest you exercise caution using keywords so you don't narrow your searches down too much. Because remember, the keywords you enter are not necessarily the words the funders use. For example, if you add rescue to the criteria, we'll go ahead and type in rescue at this point, and then click submit. So currently we have 6 specific results. Adding rescue, our keyword here, breaks us down to only 2 results. So we're missing out on 4 potential funding services. So let's go ahead and remove that from this right here. Now, if your organization is working across a few states, you actually have the option of selecting others to broaden your search. So let's say that our animal welfare organization is working across the tri-state area of Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Iowa. We can add those to pull up additional funders. So currently we're looking at 6 specific results with this search criteria. Well, let's go ahead and add a couple more states. Let's start by adding in Wisconsin and see what our results go up by. So now we're at 12 results. Let's go ahead and add in Iowa at this point. And now we're looking at 19 specific results. Now, another thing you can do on Grantstation is you can also develop project descriptions, save your search criteria, save individual funders, and even track the status of your application process all through your custom dashboard. So I'm going to go ahead and show you our dashboard right now. So it's right up here next to your name when you log in. It's called My Dashboard. Starting off, there's an introduction which explains what each of the sections is, but I'll give you a brief overview. So clicking on projects, within this specific tab, you can develop project descriptions to guide your research, including a statement of need, a budget summary, geographic scope, geographic focus, areas of interest, and more. So you can do all that. I'll go ahead and click on edit just to show you what that looks like here. And a lot of this I've left blank just so I could give you a brief overview. But this is where you can put in all that specific information you need as you're putting together your specific grant application. So I'm going to go ahead and close this right now. The next area is our saved criteria. You can select some search criteria, then name it, and save your specific search. So once it's in your dashboard, you can then click the name again to rerun the search at a later date. So this allows you to really remember the terms that were most effective in finding funders for your programs. So you can run it again in the future to see all the new opportunities that have been added. So for instance, the search I just did, the animal welfare search, I went ahead and saved it, and you can see when it was specifically created and what search section it was made for. So if I click on this right now, it'll actually take me right back to the search interface, and it'll pull up those specific searches based on, in this case, Minnesota, area of interest, animal welfare, and type of support, general operating support. On top of this, you can also save specific funders. So I'm going to go back into my dashboard, or actually, you can simply click right here where it says Save and save a specific funder to your dashboard, or you can unsave it to remove it from your dashboard. Let's go ahead and save this one to the dashboard. So it's been saved to my dashboard. Let's take a look at the dashboard now and see all the different funding sources that I've saved. I get a breakdown of the Grantmaker, the application deadline, when the profile was updated in our system, the date we saved it to our specific dashboard, what the current status is of that particular funding announcement, and if it's a part of my plan. And that moves us into the final area, and that's My Plan. You can add a Grantmaker to the My Plan section, and from this interface, you can then plan out your application process with the Grantmakers you've identified in your research. So on this tab, you can edit and see things like the Grantmaker name, the project it's mapped to, from your Projects tab, what priority this funder has in your scheme, what the status of the application is, the amount you requested, application deadlines, if any, when a draft application is due, any notes you may have about this funder or its application process, and even more. So this is a really great section and a great way to really track your grants all through the Grantstation interface. So after showing you the dashboard, let's go back and do another search. Let's go back to our second search actually. And remember that was an after-school program to educate students regarding obesity. So I'm going to go ahead and jump all the way back into our main search area here. I'm going to click Clear All. That'll remove everything from our search criteria so we can start fresh. But remember, you can save it at any time. And we're going to go ahead and start with national, I think. And we'll add in a specific state if necessary just to really broaden our search as much as possible. So I'm going to go ahead and choose, let's see, I'll choose California this time. So looking at my keyword research that I did earlier today, I know that I have two really good options in the health and wellness category. One is healthy eating and nutrition, and the other is healthy lifestyles and obesity prevention. So I can select both of them if I want, or just one of them. It's really up to me. I like to start with the wide view and then funnel down to the specific results. So let's go down to our specific section in areas of interest. And again, if I go into the health and wellness category, as I mentioned, I can go ahead and click on healthy lifestyles and obesity prevention, or healthy eating and nutrition. I'll start with healthy lifestyles and obesity prevention. Now what's also unique about this search is we're targeting specifically children in an after-school program. So let's go ahead and add a targeted population. So if we go down past areas of interest, we have a targeted population. This is where we could focus on funding just for, say, Alaska Natives, children and the youth, minorities, seniors of the aging, veterans, women, lots of different targeted populations that you can select from as you're doing your research. But for now, let's click on children and youth. So now we're looking at 43 specific results. Let's narrow this down by just searching within a specific state. In this case, it's California. So I'll go ahead and drop USA from our geographic search. And now we're looking at 18 specific results. I go ahead and show all of them on a page at once by clicking the 20 right there. So I'll see 20 items at a time. And what I can also do really quickly, I can of course sort these by simply clicking on these headers, but I can also see at a glance if this will work for me. For instance, the Albertsons Companies Foundation provides a geographic scope in these specific states, but also geographic focus on communities served by the company. So if my specific community doesn't have an Albertsons or an Albertsons present, this is a good one to put aside and maybe not focus on right now and move on to the next one. The same thing with the Aldi Smart Kids program. They primarily have a focus of communities with Aldi stores. This is the information Grantstation provides to save you time as you're doing your specific research. Now remember that you can start your searches in any order, and you can add or subtract the criteria to refine your search results. Now in addition to these US-based Grantmaker listings, we also have 3 other unique areas to search through. We have our international and Canadian charitable databases, along with our Canadian government section. I'm going to cover those really briefly. We do have tours on our website that go in depth into each of these sections. So our international database, which I'll go ahead and click on right here, contains grant listings that are beneficial to organizations working outside the US. So say, for instance, I'm addressing the issue of hunger in Kenya. Well, I can start by clicking on grantmakers who focus on developing countries, or global grantmakers, or both. And then I could choose specific continental grantmakers who give in a specific continent. So again, my focus is on Kenya. So I'll go ahead and click on Africa at this point. Then I can narrow this down even further by choosing a specific country. And in this case, I'm going to choose a national grantmaker who gives specifically within Kenya. And then I can add in my specific areas of interest at this point. And again, let's just say I'm working on something focusing on hunger. And I'm pretty sure that hunger is actually a keyword used often by many areas. So I'm going to go ahead and drop the areas of interest and type in that specific keyword of hunger. And click Submit. So looking at about 32 specific results, I can narrow it down by clicking on and off the various boxes. The other area I wanted to show you now is our Canadian database. This has profiles of grantmakers provide support within specifically Canada. So I'll go ahead and click on Canadian Charitable now. Now let's say for a sample we're working on a health-related health-related program actually in British Columbia. So I'll start with national grant makers to give across all the provinces of Canada. I'm going to go ahead at this point and choose a specific provincial grant maker as well to add that to the mix. Let's say British Columbia. And then I'm focusing on the health-related project. So if I go ahead and scroll down, and here's a little trick when you're using our database, under areas of interest, each of these specific areas of interest has a general category, which includes everything that falls under the everything that falls below that. So this includes emergency services, dental oral health, healthy eating and nutrition. If I want to just maximize my results, I'll simply click the box right here, Health Wellness General. And that'll give me all the options available within the health category. And again, I can further narrow this down as well. And then I can sort it, and I can add more and remove more from it as well. Now, the Canadian Government section, or the Canadian Government Grants and Loans section, provides listings of national and provincial departments and agencies that offer financial and technical assistance programs. You can visit the National Opportunities page, which is right here. And this will let you review programs that give across Canada. And then you can visit the individual page for a particular province or territory to identify potential resources available to your organization. Now, once you've done this primary research, this finding of grants that look like a good fit for your specific program or project, you're going to have a really extensive list of potential funding sources. Now, I mentioned earlier in our Build Strategy section, we have this great step-by-step article called the Grant Seeking Calendar. And this will help you with your next steps in the grant strategy process, which we refer to as secondary research. And for this, I'm going to call Sarah back, and she'll walk us through how to do this.
Well, thanks so much. So Jeremy showed you earlier where you can begin your research by filling out the project description worksheet. So now you have a list of possible funders. So in this section, I'll show you the decision matrix. This is a tool to build a grant-seeking calendar. Now, the decision matrix will help you establish an annual grant-seeking calendar that will keep your grant-seeking focused on those programs and projects that need the funds. Establishing basic criteria for whether a grant opportunity is worth your organization's investment of time and energy is a true time saver. But before you begin to create a grant-seeking calendar, you'll need to develop an analytical tool that can help you make decisions about which grant makers you should pursue and which ones you should put aside. The tool doesn't cost any money, it just takes time. And you can refer to this tool as the decision matrix. Now, this matrix can be applied to requests for proposals or grant application deadline or guidelines. You can use Excel, Smartsheet, or any other spreadsheet program. So the matrix is comprised of rows and columns and relies on simple addition and subtraction to reach a conclusion or score. The matrix will establish a set of criteria. Those are the rows, each assigned a weight. Those are the columns, which when applied will influence your decision on whether to add this particular grant maker to your grant calendar. Now, this is somewhat subjective, but less so than you might imagine if you give careful thought to each criteria, the weight it carries, and the final score. So it'll look something like this. So now you run each of the grant makers that you identified in your research through the decision matrix, and you eliminate those that don't meet your basic criteria, whose deadlines may be too close or the requirements too much for your organization at this time. For whatever reason, you just set those aside. And after you come up with a final list of the best possible grant makers for your identified projects, now it's time to draft your grant strategy. So here it is in Part 5. Here's what a grants calendar is going to look like. So the calendar is an organic document that can take your organization's strategy out 12 to 18 months. And you can share this strategy with your coworkers, your executive director, and board members. And if this seems complicated, you can see everything in this tutorial that we provide for you with all the steps you need to take to build your own matrix and your calendar. And the best part about this calendar is that when someone comes to you and says, oh, I found this great funding opportunity, let's apply for it, you now have a tool to say, let me run it through the matrix and really see if they are a good fit for our organization. So it really is a great time saver. Now, as part of the secondary research, you're also going to want to generate questions that you'll want to ask the grant maker to help you determine if they really are the best fit for your project. So under the additional research tab, we have Ask a Funder. And this is a guide, so to speak, that you can use for questions that you may want to ask the funder before applying. We also have the IRS Form 990. Now this is done by GuideStar, and you just click this link here. It's free. You just create a username and password, and you can do all your 990 research right through GuideStar, right through this link. And then we also have the in-kind gifts for your secondary research. And this is an article how you might want to take the time to consider how you can leverage donations of products and services when you are applying for funding. And then with that, Jeremy, let's show people where they can get more information about building their skill levels with regards to any area of grantsmanship.
Oh, that's great, Sarah. And that's actually, as I mentioned earlier, actually towards the beginning of the tour, in our public resources section. This is where you can find the Pathfinder. So as Sarah said, if you were interested in learning more about developing your career path as a grants professional, you should utilize our Pathfinder website. Now, this is a separate website from Grantstation. It's free. Now, our library here provides profiles on top quality resources in the areas of grant research, writing, and management, as well as strategic planning. Now, to get started, you can simply browse through the library. You can also go ahead and search for the resources directly, or even use our Find Your Path tool. That'll give you a customized curriculum for your learning path. Now, in addition to this, Grantstation is also very interested in what's going on in the philanthropic world. And to that end, we have our Trend Track section, also under Public Resources. I'll go ahead and click on Trend Track right now and show this to you. Our goal here at Grantstation is for you to make the most of your grant-seeking time and to get the most from your grant requests. So this mini site within Grantstation features three main areas. First is Track Success. This is a collection of feature articles that focus on a particular grant maker or a philanthropic trend. Then we have our State of Grant Seeking. This is our semi-annual report of the survey results from our grant-seeking community, and this is a great way to see what everyone else is doing around the world as far as how they are applying for and receiving and how grants are really being broken down. And finally, we have our GS Insights. This is a blog that features the thoughts and observations of our staff, CEO, and various guest writers. Now, the important thing to remember is that if you're doing a search for funding for any kind of project at all, it's important to have some sort of a grants strategy. A strategic approach using primary and secondary research, as we showed you today, and Grantstation's tools really allows you to apply your time where it's most effective and efficient in your specific search for funding. And I think with that, we've reached just about the end of the tour today, Sarah. Is there any last minute things you think we should cover, or should we go ahead and jump right into the questions?
I think we should jump right into the questions because we have a lot, and I'm going to try and cover as many of them as we can in the time remaining. So hang on. Let me start rather towards the beginning. Hang on here
no
just
problem.
a moment.
I'm going nowhere. I'll stay right here the whole time.
Seth asks, how do you gather your funding opportunities? How comprehensive is the list?
I'm going to assume you mean as far as the listing that we have within our databases. And the best way to think of this, is our specific database itself contains lots of different records that are constantly being updated and modified. So at any given time, you have anywhere between 10,000 to 12,000 records available. And those change based specifically on if the funder has changed what they're offering, let's see, or perhaps they are no longer offering it for general opportunities for people to apply for it. Everything you're going to find listed within Grantstation is stuff you can directly apply for and stuff that's currently available. So it's going to be as comprehensive as you make it as you're doing your searches. So as long as you are looking for the right search terms and you're finding the specific areas that fit your specific need, Grantstation will be able to provide you with funding opportunities to look into.
Okay, thanks. Linda asks, do Grantstation searches overlap with Foundation Center?
I do not believe they do. Yeah, you could go ahead and handle that one, Sarah, if you like.
The biggest difference between Grantstation and Foundation Center is that we list only those funding opportunities that are currently available. And so we don't have past funding opportunities that you need to search through. That's the biggest difference between us and the Foundation Center. So yes, they are going to overlap a bit, just to let you know, because they will also post the current funding opportunities. So, hang on here. Can an organization apply to many grants? Is it possible to receive multiple grants, or is there a procedure in place to make sure an organization can receive one grant at a time for a project?
Oh man, if we all had to rely on just one grant for our projects, I think there would be a lot less projects in the world today. One good thing to note is that you can often apply for multiple grants at a given time. And in fact, many fundraisers, or actually not fundraisers, actual funders specifically like to know that they are not the sole source of funding. So if you're getting 500 from Joe, you're maybe getting 1,000 from Jane, even though you still need 3,000. So you already have these two organizations supporting you, and this third organization can now support you as well towards your goal. So you can apply for multiple grants.
Plus, may I add on to that funders want to see collaborations. So they're thrilled that you're bringing in different organizations to help support your projects and programs. Bruce asked, my organization is recently organized. Is there a search for funders who are willing to help startup organizations?
Sarah, do you happen to have any idea how that could be done within our search records?
Yes, we do have funders who will help you with seed money for brand new organizations. I'm trying to think of where it is right now, types of support. Yeah, go down there, Jeremy. Keep going, keep going. There it is, startup funding towards the bottom. So absolutely, you absolutely can find funders there. Tanya asked, do most grant makers on Grantstation require a nonprofit to be an approved 501c3? We've applied for a determination, but it hasn't been made yet.
One thing that's really nice that you can do when you're going through Grantstation is if it requires it, it will stay specifically in the record. If it doesn't say it requires it in the record, more than likely it doesn't, but you should always check the Grantmaker's website itself. However, since you have applied for designation, there's a good chance that you could include that when you are applying or writing your letter of inquiry or just doing an inquiry to the actual funder itself. They would go ahead and say, oh, well, you're in the process. That's great.
Perfect. So if you have multiple search terms that work for a program and we search both of them at the same time, will that show funders who fund one or the other, or only those who fund both?
Well, that's a good question. And one thing that helps when you're approaching Grantstation's database is it's based on an AND-based Boolean operator search. So they would support X and Y. So that's why we always recommend you start broad and then narrow it down to your specific results. And if you don't find the right result when you narrow it down too much, take a step back and remove a search term, and then you'll be able to see that wider view. So keep in mind it's an and-based search, and that should help you when you're trying to determine what would happen.
Great. Lupe asks, will you please review target population? Can you just show that target population category, Jeremy?
Sure. And actually, Sarah, you know a lot about this area, Sarah.
I do. I think when you're doing a search, I teach people to do it two ways. First, you might want to target your population. Say you're working with seniors. So you actually click on seniors and aging to look for funders. However, that means the funder has to specifically state seniors and aging, and they may not. They may just present funding that includes everyone. So then you also want to do the same search, but you take that target population off. So you make sure you get the other records from the funders who don't list, we just do seniors and aging, or use those words. Wouldn't you agree, Jeremy?
No, that's exactly right, Sarah. And that's one of the really powerful parts of Grantstation Search is that you can actually do this. This is one of the steps you can have. You can target down to a specific population. And if you have questions about what they all include, just like in the areas of interest, there's a little I right here for information. You can click that and learn more about each of the targeted population areas.
Okay, we have a question. I didn't understand what was under Ask a Funder, for instance. Is that a list of potential questions or something we populate ourselves? Well, Jeremy, go to Ask a Funder, and I would say this is a guide, just a guideline that our CEO has offered to help you kind of get the idea of what are good questions to ask a funder. But it certainly is just the beginning. I would take something like this, look at these questions, see which ones that you like, and then, of course, customize that and add your own questions as well. Okay, hang on. I've got it with this item we don't know the answer to, but I'm going to read the question. What ballpark percentage of profiles that you complete are accepted by the funder?
I wish we had that specific information, yeah.
We don't quite have that answer. Amy asks, is there a way to export information to another format, Excel, for example?
Yes, there is. And one of the great things, I'm just going to mention this really quickly back in the dashboard section. Within the project section, you can actually email this directly to yourself, but under your Save Grantmakers and My Plan, those are also exportable directly to Excel as an export to CSV for Grantmakers, and under My Plan, you can also export to CSV as in Excel.
Katie asks, if you're an organization, and this is a great question, based in the U.S. that serves primarily abroad in Haiti, when we're searching for grant makers, should we look in the U.S. charitable or global or both?
That is a great question, and the answer is both. So the trick is, when you're doing any research, and I recently did another tour where this question came up, and I sat down with our researchers to really understand the best way to approach it. Start by focusing on finding funding where you're working. So for instance, in this example, they mentioned specifically Haiti. And we're going to go ahead and do a really quick search, and I don't want to have a whole lot of time today, but I'll show you how this will work. So we'll start by including developing countries, which Haiti would be included with that. Also global grant makers as well. We're going to maximize everything possible here. And then we can add in a specific continental grant maker. And I think Haiti falls under Latin America. I'm not positive. I'm pretty sure. Let me double check that once it pops up. I can then go into a specific. Yeah. Okay, good. Yeah. I did not fail geography, so good for me. So I'll go ahead and click on Haiti at this point. Okay, so right now we're looking at 933 results. Now these results are all based on specific organizations that want to support or provide support globally and also provide support within Haiti. So you don't necessarily have to be in Haiti. Now, if you are, or if it specifically says it, here's a good example. So the Accentus Foundation, the geographic scope is developing countries in Switzerland, but their eligible organizations are nonprofit organizations based in Switzerland. So unless you are based in Switzerland, you could not apply for this particular funding opportunity. So you'd move on to a different one. This Action for Nature focuses on individuals. You are an organization, so this probably wouldn't work for you as well. But the Adaptation Fund, this might be one to look into. Or the Adobe Event Sponsorship Program. This might be another one to look into because it just says nonprofit organizations. So if it specifically doesn't allow you to apply for it, you will be able to know at a glance. And this is where you would start your searching in the international database, even if you are based in the US, and choosing global, and then choosing developing countries, then choosing your specific country. That'll give you the maximum number of results. And if something is cross-listed in our US charitable or Canadian location, it'll also be noted here as well.
Okay, great. Patty asks, is it possible to view an issue of the Grantstation Insider newsletter on the website so they can see what it looks like?
Oh my goodness, really? That's fantastic. I've looked at this every day for the last 11 years, so I have it memorized. But I would be happy to show it to you. So if you click here, and you don't even have to be logged in to see this, and you can actually sign up for the Insider for free, you can click Read the Current Issue and see what the current issue is. It's broken down into national, regional, and federal opportunities, as well as a Pathfinder feature and a brief listing of our online education. It breaks down into a brief description and then a breakdown of that particular funding announcement and then a direct link to that funder. And this arrives in your email box every Thursday morning.
Great. Well, we're running out of time, but I've got two more questions I want to ask, and I'm sorry I couldn't get to all of them. Jill asked, wondering if Grantstation would be a good fit for me as a campus minister. Are there a lot of religious, college, and vocation exploration type opportunities? We do have search terms for religious funders. But then I always say to people, I always look under religious and then take the religious off and look for the same other criteria to pull up different funders. The real beauty of Grantstation is that you can check on and off boxes, and that's going to bring up different records, depending how the funder states their profile. So absolutely, wouldn't you say, Jeremy?
I would, and one thing to keep in mind, and this is something we don't always talk a lot about, but if you are not logged into Grantstation and you're still not exactly sure if it's going to be a good fit for you, we work this into the system. This is something that you can do. So I'm currently not logged in. I go to US Charitable. It says a member feature, I have to log in. I can still do searches. So I can do a search and just see exactly, well, global grant makers, how many do you have listed? Oh, 685. Well, what if I'm also based in, I don't know, let's say I'm focusing on health, wellness, general. Like, okay, well, that's going to narrow it down. Well, what if I'm also looking nationally, and I'm not seeing the actual results, I'm just seeing the number of results available. So if we go ahead and go down one step further and go down to a type of support, or in this case, a type of grant maker, which is religious, we can see at a glance how many religious listings we have with a specific layout. Now, if we remove certain checkboxes here, that number will increase. So this is a quick way to go in and see, is it going to work for me based on using these search terms? Is this going to fit? We try to save you time. We don't want you to make a purchase you don't want. So we're giving you this option to just see what's available without even having to sign in.
Okay, so we're really coming close to the end. Suzanne asks, what is a good category to search for grants for law enforcement, like police? We give free bulletproof canine armor vests to police dogs. So do we have search criteria that would help narrow down the grant makers? And we do, Suzanne. We have police and fire, we have safety, we have a lot of different categories in there that police can use to find funders. And with that, Jeremy, the last question Nadine asks is there someone who will provide support over the phone if we need it? And why don't you show folks that information?
And we do, and the best way to do that is go ahead and click on the nice little help button right here, and you can give us a call toll free, you can email us, and if you really want to waste your time, go ahead and send us a fax as well. We're happy to answer your questions and help you with your searches here at Grantstation. If you're having difficulty using it, let us know. We also have quite a few videos available here in the help section. These will walk you through how to do everything I've shown you today in greater detail, and how to learn things online. Someone was mentioning earlier about trying to find funding for faith-based organizations. We have a whole feature just on that. Find funding for health. We have lots of help available. You can always contact us, and we're happy to help you out.
Okay, thanks so much, Jeremy. Seema, I'm going to turn this back to you.
All right. Thank you, Sarah and Jeremy. We have a few minutes left, so if you guys don't mind, if you want to share one thing that you learned in today's webinar in the chat box, it's always nice for Sarah and Jeremy to see that. Also, we have a post-event survey, so any feedback that you have for us really helps. There is a open forum comment section, and we do look at that, and we want to make sure that you got what you needed out of today's webinar, or if there's anything that you'd like to see in the future, definitely let us know. We're also on social media, so Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Feel free to give us a follow. We post a lot of tips and tricks there, in addition to on our blog, which is blog.techsoup.org. And we actually have another webinar tomorrow with Alice Runke. She's done a few other webinars with us called Grant Trends and Common Mistakes Make Your 2019 Applications Shine. So if you guys have time tomorrow, she'll be presenting at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And then you can see here we have a few other webinars coming up in February, so feel free to visit our website to RSVP for any of these. And lastly, I just want to let you guys know that we have TechSoup courses and TechSoup services available also. We do offer a 10% off discount for the TechSoup course of your choice, and the code is FY19Web10, and you can see we have different topics like Google Analytics, Facebook advertising for nonprofits, and all of that stuff. And then lastly, just so you guys don't forget, if you didn't do so already, please sign up for the email to get the Grantstation Reminder to your inbox for the February 12th and February 13th sale that we're having. So I just want to thank Sarah and Jeremy again for the presentation today. I want to thank Zareen on the back end for helping, and then also to the attendees for spending this time with us, and to our webinar sponsor, ReadyTalk.